Welcome to today's deep dive. It's a bit of a love story, but one that's, well, it's really tied to a specific place.
Yeah, a place and a landmark, all wrapped up in this really fascinating tale. We're talking about Kylemore Abbey in County Galway, Ireland.
And our jumping off point for this deep dive is a blog post about the Abbey. But honestly,
The blog post is interesting, for sure,
right,
but it's the story of the people behind it.
Mitchell and Margaret Henry.
That's what really grabbed me.
Yeah, you start reading, you're like, wait, is this a fairy tale? Because Mitchell basically gives Margaret this enormous estate.
Over 13,000 acres, smack dab in the heart of Connemara.
Like, can you imagine?
It's the 19th century, right? So you have these grand gestures, wealthy gentlemen, all that. But even for that time, to build this whole abbey.
Oh, it wasn't just a house.
No, this was a statement. Their love, literally set in stone.
And the construction starts in 1867.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a testament, I guess, to their love and I guess the kind of life they dreamed of.
Living there together, this Irish countryside, yeah.
And the architecture, we should mention. The Abbey itself, it's this stunning neo-Gothic style.
Very popular back then.
Oh, yeah. Victorian England, soaring towers, all the ornate details, those pointed arches. It was like the thing.
But it's more than just fashion, I think, the neo-Gothic. It had this, romanticism to it. Like, people were looking back to this, I don't know, idealized past.
It's like Mitchell really was creating this fairy tale world.
Exactly. A retreat away from, I guess, the modern world.
And in the blog post, it mentions, before the Abbey, Mitchell built this hunting lodge for Margaret on the estate.
Almost like a foreshadowing. Like, that's how devoted he was.
Totally.
And it says a lot about their shared love of this place, of Connemara. I mean, have you ever seen pictures?
Oh, it's rugged, yeah.
Wild,
Yeah.
romantic, the kind of place that inspires, poetry and grand gestures.
But speaking of romantic, this is where things take a turn.
Yeah. Fairy tales, right?
Yeah,
They don't always have the happiest endings.
exactly. The blog post doesn't really get into specifics, but there was some tragedy that the Henrys faced.
And it's like it transformed the whole abbey from a place of love to this place of sorrow.
Both, really. Both
Yeah.
love and sorrow.
Yeah.
It doesn't say exactly what happened.
It doesn't, but you can almost feel it. When you see pictures of Kylemore Abbey, the mountains, the lakes so still, reflecting everything.
Makes it even more mysterious.
It does. More than just a pretty picture, right? Like, what was life really like there? How did they deal with such a loss, especially in such a beautiful but also isolated setting?
Yeah.
Makes you think about how we understand history, The stories that places hold, like, we see this amazing building, this grand gesture, but there's also this sadness underneath it all.
It's like we're being challenged to look past just the
To
surface.
see the complexity, like
For
how
sure.
joy and sorrow, they can be so intertwined,
So we have this beautiful but also tragic setting, this love story that, well, it gets cut short. So what happens? I mean, does the Abbey just become this relic of the past? A monument to grief? Or was there more to the story?
Well, it definitely didn't just become a relic. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's that sadness, but it kept going, Like how a lot of great love stories, they have that mix of joy and sorrow.
Okay, but so what happened next? Because the blog post mentions Benedictine nuns, which seems like a pretty big shift from like a romantic getaway.
Oh, it is a big shift. But it kind of adds another layer, to
Yeah.
Kylemore's story. So in 1920, you had these Benedictine nuns. They were fleeing World War I, and they ended up finding refuge in Ireland. And they bought Kylemore. So it went from being this private estate to an abbey, and they started a school for girls there.
Wow. So from like a symbol of romantic love to a place of faith and education.
Yeah, and it makes you think about how these grand spaces, they can adapt, Like Kylemore was built to make a statement, and it kept doing that even with this new purpose. The nuns, they really embraced the existing beauty, and they added their own touches, too.
So it's not like they just, I don't know, tried to erase the past.
No, not at all. Like the Gothic church on the grounds, for example, that became this place for quiet reflection.
Almost like the Abbey itself took on a different kind of romanticism.
Interesting way to put it. Not romantic love, but a love of, I don't know, knowledge, spirituality, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and community too. The blog post talks about the nuns and their tradition of scholarship, but also horticulture. They actually brought the Victorian walled gardens back to life. They were kind of neglected before that.
Oh, the gardens, yeah. They're a big draw for visitors.
So what's so special about them?
Imagine, 6 acres, all enclosed by these stone walls.
Okay.
It's like this little world, this Victorian idea of taming nature. You've got these
Mm.
formal flower beds, fruit trees, even a fernery, and everything's so meticulously laid out. It's really a testament to the nuns and all the work they put in.
For decades, yeah.
Decades.
It's cool how these gardens, I mean, they were created for beauty and, just to be enjoyed. But then with
Yeah.
the nuns, it's like they take on this whole new significance. They were a source of food, but they also show this dedication to beauty, to practicality.
Yeah, it's a good parallel to Kylemore itself, wouldn't you say? Meant for one thing, but then finds this whole new meaning.
And what about Kylemore today? It's obviously not just some historical site that people just, glance at. What do you think draws people to it?
I think it's a few things. There's the obvious, the place is beautiful, the neo-Gothic architecture,
Yeah.
stunning. And
Yeah.
then you have Connemara all around it, this breathtaking landscape.
Right.
But I also think it's the story, that love story, the loss, the resilience, people connect with that. It adds something, a depth that you don't find everywhere.
It's like we're uncovering these different chapters in the life of this building. It goes from this, grand romantic gesture, then it becomes a spiritual sanctuary, and now it's this place that welcomes people to experience its story.
Exactly. And it's not just about the Abbey either. County Galway, the whole region, there's so much there. The blog post even mentions the Aran Islands.
Oh, the Aran Islands,
Huh?
like their own little world,
It
right?
really are. Picture this. 3 small islands
Uh-huh.
off the coast, getting pounded by the Atlantic, stark landscape, dramatic, and they've been inhabited for centuries, so you have all this history, this culture, all mixed in with, like, the physical place itself.
So what makes them, I don't know, what makes them different from other islands or coastal areas?
Well, it's like stepping back in time, but not in this, like, cheesy museum way.
Oh, right.
People live and work there, and they've preserved so much, like the Irish language and these unique crafts. There's a real sense of resilience there, of self-sufficiency. It's pretty inspiring.
So from this grand estate at Kylemore to these almost, I don't know, weather-beaten islands,
Yeah.
it seems like County Galway has this huge range of experiences.
Yeah, it does. And they all tie together in a way, whether it's the wildness of Connemara National Park, the energy of Galway City, or the quiet of a Benedictine abbey. There's this thread that runs through it all. Irish history, myth, that spirit.
So taking all of that together, what does it say about County Galway? And maybe even about, I don't know, the power of place. Why should this resonate with someone listening, who might be miles and miles away? It's like all these places, Kylemore Abbey, the Aran Islands, even Galway City, they all kind of echo the Henry story in a way. That sense of love that lasts, of pushing through hardship and finding beauty, even when you wouldn't expect it.
It's true. It really makes you think how one love story, it can have this ripple effect. It shapes how we see a whole region. Makes you wonder how many other stories are hidden, right? In the places we visit, the things we admire.
And for someone listening who might be thinking, oh, okay, that's a nice story, but so what? Like, why should they care?
I'd say it's a good reminder that travel, even when we're just, talking about it like we are now, it's not just about checking things off a list. It's
Right.
about those human stories behind the places, understanding how history and culture, how they shape what we see.
So it's like adding depth, like going beyond just what's on the surface.
Exactly. And County Galway really is a perfect example of that. The dramatic landscapes, the history, that spirit that you feel there, it's a place that wants you to explore not just the physical beauty, but the stories that have made it what it is.
For me, what really sticks with me is it's not just how beautiful Kylemore Abbey is, but it's that power of human connection, how love and loss, how they can have such a lasting effect on a place.
And maybe that's the best thing we can take away from any journey, that places, they're more than just destinations, right? They're these collections of stories, of emotions, experiences, and those things can stay with us long after we've come home.
So if you ever find yourself in County Galway, remember the Henrys. Remember that love story that led to this incredible place. And let it make you appreciate even more all the beauty and history and that resilient spirit that you'll find there.
It's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. And that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.